So it starts a gloomy day in Thailand, and it's already a cat at the door. We gotta take care of these animals out here. Come in, troops. Come. They're doing the smart thing, guys. Trill Talk, MMA mashup 2, right before UFC tomorrow. My boy Dr.Jeyll with like 22 fights coming up, so we'll get to that later. At James Chaney MMA, follow your boy, and me, Greg Blackson, Fallen Angel, at Fallen Angel 510, DMJR, Yada Boo Boo. So we're gonna start. We got a lot to talk about this time. We'll start with that Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier card too. And me, I'm a funny guy. Everybody thinks I'm serious. I'm a funny guy, so I'll start with a funny fight. Devin Powell and Alvaro Herrera. I thought Devin Powell wasn't shit, I'm sorry. I thought he was just gonna get beat up by this kid. And then he kicks him with his toes 52 times in the liver and he wins. What did you think about that, James? What did you think about that?
I was surprised by it. It looked like he was outmatched, and it was just weird how it turned around so quickly and honestly so hilariously, because the first kick you see him and he's like, oh, and then the second one he just put him right out of there. So it was a strange looking fight, but it was fun. I liked how it ended.
It's like you were saying when we were talking that time, that kick reminded me of the guy, and God damn it, calling myself Greg Blackson.
Kinoka?
Just cannot, huh?
Kinoka? Something like that?
Something like that, but he was on, if anybody remembers his name, let us know.
He had like this praying mantis stance, and he'd always kick people with his toes.
Dude, he did it to Andre Dita. He gave Eddie Alvarez a good fight.
Yeah, he was actually doing real good against Tony Ferguson, too.
Yeah, he was.
Kakuno?
I think it's Kakuno.
Kakuno, yeah.
I think it's Kakuno. And he was kicking everybody with his toes to the liver. And it reminded me of that. You just see Powell getting his ass kicked, and then he just sticks his big toe. That's like the hardest big toe I've ever seen, probably, into the dude's liver. It's like almost drops him, and then does it a second time.
It's like he cut his toe like right in between his ribs, straight into the organ.
One thing is, all these commentators, just stop it. Just stop it. Everybody's talking about, oh, you get hit in the liver and you're going down, the body, you can't help it, the body just is going to shut down and blah, blah, blah. No, it's mind over matter. I've been kicked by Anderson Silva's top lightweight on a half-dead weight cut in the liver, and it hurts. It hurts. James, you've been hit in the liver before.
Plenty of times.
You're not just going to shut down and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But it does hurt. But I'm tired of these commentators giving misinformation from a physiological standpoint.
The thing is, that's like there's degrees of it, right? Not all liver shots are created equal, but they make it sound like once you get touched on your liver, your body has like some sort of reaction where it's immediately just going to seize up and you're going to fall down and go fetal. And that's an understandable response. But I even heard Joe Rogan talking about it just today when Kevin Ross got hit with the spinning back kick to the liver in the fight before last. He just toughed his way through it. And he was saying in the post-fight interview or some interview thereafter, I was in absolute world of pain. But he just kept a game face on, and you would never know that he was hurt like that. But he was at the point where these guys are talking about you coil up and die on the floor.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It makes you want to do that.
Yeah.
It makes you want to do that. But because, we've trained with Kevin Ross a long time. Shout out to the soul assassin out there taking souls and shit. But he's a mentally tough dude. Always has been known for that, no quitting him. It comes down to this. I say it a lot of times. Rampage said in that interview that a lot of knockouts aren't knockouts, it's just guys going down. You know, and me and you have talked about a lot of submissions or submissions people get, especially the rear naked choke. Oh, I'm losing, I'm tired, let them get it. Sorry to say it, but a lot of these fighters out there, they quitters.
See,
you know, a lot of them are bullies. A lot of them are bullies, that's why.
You know what, and not only that, but like, listen, guys don't want to admit that this is what's going on, but a lot of the times they're just wanting to be out of there, and that's a reasonable response because they're done. You know, psychologically, they're not going to come back even if the guy manages to let up and, you know, it doesn't finish them the rest of the way. But
yeah,
a
lot of these guys getting like sports psychology coaches and shit. Nobody with a strong mind, I feel, my opinion, would need that. I know myself as a man, I don't need anybody to tell me what I need to do to push forward. That's all I've been doing my whole life. I don't picture you ever needing that either. Maybe a pep talk from a friend like, you know, when I got kicked in the liver, I didn't show it at all. I walked back to the corner, I said, hey James, I'm fucked up. And you were just like, well, you know, can you go fight? Yeah, go fight his ass then if you fucked up. Like, just do what you gotta do. You know, you might need a pep talk, but need somebody to baby you through things. To me, that's clear evidence of a weak mind. And you know, it's like Frank Shamrock always told me his best submission is his cardio. You always see people start to just quit once they get tired, you know, or they're like losing and they feel like they can't come back. I feel one big sign of that is looking up at that clock. That shows you the mentality of a guy. You looking up at the clock, that to me that's a sign that you want the round to be over, if not the fight. Then you got guys like Scott Smith. You kill that guy and
he might
still come back and kill you. Yeah, he might resurrect like OG Gauntlet or Alter Beast, you know, so.
Yeah, I feel a little bit different. I feel a little bit different, you know. I mean, I understand it can kind of get in some guys' heads 'cause shit happens, you know. Like maybe things just happen to shake out the way they happen to shake out. You moved your head left when you should have moved it right and get knocked out, and you're just going down a street. And a guy just starts to feel like, fuck, maybe I ain't got it no more. And then he goes and looks for the help of one of these sports psychiatrists or whatever. And I don't think that'll make him weak. I think in some ways a guy looking for a solution can be a good thing.
What do you think about this, though? Let me ask you at this part of what you're saying. Do you feel that's the wrong person to go to? Shouldn't they be going to their coaches and possibly their teammates, their most trusted partners? Because who's going to know what's going on with them? Isn't that what a coach is for? Like if you look at old guys like Emmanuel Stewart, Eddie Futch, you know, even Mike Rooney, these kind of guys, they were, in a sense, they were like psychology coaches to their fighters. So don't you think going out
more? Remind me, but
yeah.
Go on.
Oh, I was saying, don't you think going outside for it maybe then is the wrong approach rather than sticking to the people who are building you into that fight or training you?
Remember last time we were talking in our previous podcast about how some of the coaches just don't offer the right advice in the corner, and I think beyond that point, I mean, really just in that same vein, you got to just keep in mind that not all coaches are created equal. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at someone who was really exceptional and just a hot shit for a while, there was a guy named Billy Rush. He was the premier strength and conditioning coach, and he was like one of the earliest coaches that people really looked at as being something special. And I can't really say a whole lot about the dude other than, you know, he produced results for a period of time and then he was gone for reasons I don't understand either. But just all that aside, the fight that it really changed for me with him was fucking goddamn kitten.
Mm-hmm.
Stop it. It was with Joe Riggs when he had to fight Matt Hughes, and he was having all kinds of trouble, and for whatever reason he and Billy Rush weren't on the same page. And you would think that's the best guy for the fight, but I mean, just reading some of the interviews and listening to some of the things that Joe Riggs said, it sounds like he just was not available in the capacities he needed him for at that time, and that was just the worst possible timing for that. So, you know, my point being, coaches are people too, you know what I mean? And they're not trained to necessarily deal with mine. And there's a lot of guys that will just tell you, suck it the fuck up, and that's not always the right answer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Billy Rush was kind of a weird case though, because, you know, like when I'm speaking like the coaches that you're training your skills, but he was just a strength and conditioning and a nutrition coach, if you remember.
Okay.
So in a sense, he shouldn't even be available. Like he's not obligated to be
Well,
available.
he missed weight. He missed weight for that
capacity.
fight.
Yeah,
that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, he did miss weight. I remember that.
Yeah.
I think Billy Rush ran into a lot of personal problems.
And I'm thinking
And
it was
Jimmy-
probably around that time.
Yeah, a lot of like real personal problems.
Right,
and
you
all
know,
that
and I don't
stuff
want
before
to.
he died. You know.
Yeah, it's rough. Anyway, but a lot of the times the coaches just aren't going to have that kind of relationship with you, or they're not qualified to make these sorts of calls, you know, and they just don't know what to do. That said, will a sports psychologist be the kind of person that? I mean, I think it helped George St. Pierre, and that's obviously a massively successful athlete, you know, so.
You know what? Then you have guys like Sean Tompkins. He's like an example. You know, everybody, you know, R.I.P. I don't know if these new kids know about him, but that was the dude
There
named
was
Mark
a time
Hominick,
when he was
Chris
doing that.
Herdecki, all those guys, Sam Stout, all those guys. He trained Bang, some Ludwig. But if you ever hear about the people that worked with him, he was always there for his people, you know? And it's just weird that it seems like you don't find that many guys like that anymore. A thing I was thinking about while you were speaking too that I think fucks up a lot of guys is this over game planning. Mm-hmm. You know, because if you make an A and a B, and I talked about this a little while ago, and that's all you give to a person, and they pretty much brainwash this into the guys for 6 to 8 weeks, and it doesn't work. It sets people into like a mental panic mode.
Sure, or even like just a simple
then-
thing, like
and
what
then
if
you
the
go
guy
for
comes out southpaw and you've been tricked, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because a lot of these guys are semi-ambidextrous now, and it's just setting the person up for like a mental meltdown. Because you're like, oh my God, A didn't work, B didn't work, looking at the clock, when is this over, what do I do, and then after that, you go back to the corner and they ain't even give you a solution to it. A lot of time that's all they had, and I feel, I guess it's a multi-dimensional problem, but it just popped in my mind as we spoke, and you know, we freestyled on here, so brought that up. Let's see what's popping up next though, because we got a lot of shit to talk about and upload today. There was Nina Anshaw, Rhonda Marcos. Rhonda, that's all I'm gonna do for that. Dustin Ortiz and Mateus Nicolau. Dustin Ortiz, man, I don't know what's going on with him, but he been looking like fire lately. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you know what? We've known him for a good minute because we fought in that same little Central Cali area, but the Tassi Palace and stuff. So,
yeah.
you know, I mean, he ain't no friend of mine or nothing like that, but I've always liked watching him fight.
He changed so much though. Remember when he had no striking really?
No, he's always
now
been a
it's
pretty
like,
fair wrestler. But
yeah. Now it's like, dude, he's looking more fit. You know, he looking ripped with the form fin shirt. You know, and his striking is coming along. And I thought it was gonna be a better fight because Mateus ain't bad standing up, but he just got his like head kicked off.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? And that's just one of those things where sometimes shit happens. You know what I mean? Not to discredit Ortiz at all because he did well in that fight, but I had him kind of trailing up until that point. You know, but it was competitive. You know, and honestly, he just found that checkmate. The one thing that annoyed me about that fight is how the commentators were talking about his knockout power. If you lay a shin across the side of someone's fucking head, there's a good chance it's gonna knock him out. It doesn't matter if it's a heavyweight and you're a girl. You lay your fucking shin bone across, like, you can't talk about power with that. That's gonna knock anybody out. You know, if someone's got a great jaw, they can take that shit.
Yeah,
but the
like
thing is to take that, yeah.
First
You know,
out.
oh shit.
That
you
ain't
know
too
what I
many
mean?
people though.
Yeah, but in order to take that, you gotta have a hard head, you know, or see it coming or roll with it. There's a lot of factors that can affect it, but a shin to the head like that, it's gonna put you away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't talk about being able to generate crazy power with that. That's silly.
They love doing it. They always talking about one-shot KO power, and they're always calling everybody a world-class striker. Let me just look at the camera and put this out there. There are very few world-class strikers in the UFC. I haven't seen a Giorgio Petrosan yet. I haven't seen a Jan Slakai Fairtex yet. I haven't seen a Joe Nanawatt level guy in there yet. You can say Gokhan Saki, and look what happened to him. Our old training buddy, homie Khalil, knocked him out. It's like I tell everybody.
Well, another good example is Alistair, who's been knocked out a couple
Yeah,
times.
a lot of times it is not. I've seen guys. Let's take Luke Rocco for example. Everybody feels he's a pretty good striker in MMA, and it's like MMA striking ain't the same. The little gloves and all that, and this and that. If you put Khalil versus Gokhan with the boxing gloves on, Gokhan is going to win that. MMA, it changes everything. You don't have to be a world-class striker to knock people out with a 4-ounce glove. You just have to have some accuracy and some goddamn power. Like Jeremy Stevens ain't the best striker. He knocks out pretty much everybody. And it's like Luke Rocco when he came up in Mayweather gym and Tabiti put the hands on him. You see a difference between real strikers and not. And they just give this title to fucking everybody. It drives me so crazy, dude.
Listen, there's so many different little nuances, you know, and I mean, first of all, the difference between a cage and the ring is massive.
Yeah.
You can speak about that as far as cutting
Yeah.
people off and that kind of, you know, and then the breaks, and I mean the lack of breaks too. The referees don't break you off when you clinch, right? That's one thing. Even in the previous fight with our Turkish Tyson homie, like, you could see he was having more trouble with that guy than you would expect him to, because the guy was using some actual Muay Thai instead of kickboxing. He was clinching him up and throwing knees and stuff.
Yeah.
He had a lot of trouble, Gokhan Saki did.
And you have to look out for things more because, you know, the thing is when you fighting with those gloves on, you have to be more skilled because it's much harder to hit someone. It's not, the openings aren't the same. When somebody, you got just your regular hands and 4-ounce gloves, you got to be way more careful because even if you block in the right way, things can get through it. Hit your temple, back of the ear, all this stuff. It's just not, it's not the same.
See,
it's crazy.
And I think a lot of people underestimate it because you got to understand, when you got this glove on, you got this much space here,
Yeah.
and then they got all this right here that has to get through that. There's so much material to, like, even if it does get through, if it's brushing up on other parts of the glove, it's taking a lot of power off now.
He's showing out for the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I have no clue what he's doing. That's one of the goon pets. One of many. Trying to get a servo up in this motherfucker. But I don't know, man. It's just, you know the commentators, man. Dana White, holla at your boy for an analyst. You need that real shit. Any of these shows need to holla. KSW, all y'all missing out. But I don't know. What's the next one? Caitlin, I don't want to screw up her name, but I will. Chikagian and Alexis Davis. I don't even understand what was happening in some of these fights that night. Alexis, you know, we know her personally, good girl. I try not to be biased, but she won 2 of those rounds, clearly in my book, and somehow lost.
You know what? It's one of those situations where I feel like aesthetically, yeah, she did look worse, but at the same time, I think she was landing just as much or more, and she had all the forward pressure. The girl was just moving back the entire time.
And taken down.
Yep.
You know, the thing is, they need to decide. Some fights, like GSP, BJ Penn won, for an example. I had BJ winning that fight. And he got taken down in that last round, and all of a sudden the takedown was big enough to give GSP the fight. Sometimes they want the takedowns to mean everything. Sometimes the takedowns mean nothing. You know, like, it, and then it's depending on what you do with it. You know, like, King Mo, I know him and all that stuff, but like when he fought Musashi the first time, he was taking him down and doing nothing, getting beat up. Musashi should have won that fight. It's like they need to make, one thing I liked about Pride and one thing I like about ONE FC, one of the few things, damage is a big criteria. It's the largest, it has to be. And it's like, but
That's how fighting works.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I hate it. I've been punched like 10 times in losing fights that I'm being up, but that's a different thing. With Alexis, forward pressure, which is part of the criteria, damage, which is part of criteria, control, which is part of criteria, and she's landing takedowns and everything. How do you lose? The last round is when she started getting tagged up. How did she lose?
I don't get it, man. You know what? Here's one thing I've been thinking about, is I noticed in some of these kickboxing fights, it's open judging, right? They put in their scores between rounds, so you know who won the last round. This is public information. Can we at least have that as fighters? Like, can we make adjustments in between rounds just because we know whether or not we won the previous round? That would clear up so much of this confusion. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what though? Pancrase did that when I fought there, and I still got fucked over. Because the thing is, they were putting in some of this shit, but not letting the corners know. It was like, so it was like a weird, like they tried to do something in the middle or something weird. Because they were putting in the scores in between rounds.
The thing is what it really should be is there needs to be consistency in the scoring. That's how it needs to be. You know what I mean?
They need some fighter scoring, like how they had Ricardo Almeida one time, Vito Shell and Rivero. Because I don't know though, man. Because sometimes I see fighters online talking about who won fights, and they don't know what the fuck they talking about either. Half the fighters are groupies. You know, y'all need to cut that shit out, please. Looking like hoes out there. You can't be no groupie, no other fighter. It's just be like, it's weird. They just need people who know.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And there needs to be some way where these people qualify to be judges, because some of these people should have been fired ages ago.
Yeah.
They have no idea what's going on, you know? They're boxing judges, and they weren't even very good boxing judges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look at how bad boxing scoring is, and then these guys, you know, I mean, shit. An arm bar is like sorcery to them.
Dude, here's the thing. Everybody want to complain about Adelaide Bird in boxing, but in MMA, 90% of these dudes is like Adelaide Bird. You know? So it's like, let's fix up our own shit, stop worrying about boxing, and get to it. You know, judges, refs, all that. I fight them more than the people I fight. You know, John McCarthy, I believe, has that program training refs, you know, and everything. They need some training these judges as well, you know, and
See, you know what? And like,
one of the problems when they go to other countries though, like I think they were just in Germany, they get these refs from those countries and they don't even know who these guys are. So that's one of the problems as well. I think they're obligated to do so.
Yeah, I don't know quite how that works, but the funny thing is like, man, it's just like so many other things where with these commissions, I mean, people are homies, you know? So a lot of these people end up in positions because they're friends with other people, you know what I mean? And they never have any business working the jobs they do, but they're willing to get paid for them.
Yeah, yeah. Because in Germany, it was like they had that one ref that was just, it's like he did not like grappling. You know, and everybody was complaining about him later. Every time somebody grappled, he just was like, you gotta work, and just breaking it up. And I'm like, dude, stuff like that changes the fight so much. What if my striking sucks and I'm the grappler, dude, and you're just stopping me from doing what I have to do?
You know what?
It's unfair, especially when half my money is on the line. And which is another thing we talked about, that to jump topic, like we always do, that has to stop.
Here's the thing, man. It's like, I don't know how much the fans know that, and I don't know, because for me, personally, I assume that this is how it worked in all combat sports. But in MMA, you end up getting a certain amount to show up and be in that fight, and then you get a certain amount to win that fight. And I figured that's how it always was, because that's how it's always been for me. But in most places, you show up for a fight, you're doing your job. You make all of your money for your job.
It's the only, I started in boxing, then kickboxing, then MMA. It's the only combat sport that's like that. How can you give a person half their life? It don't make any sense. Like,
and by the way,
his name? What was the fighter's name? But he ended up getting really, really hurt and retiring, and now I believe he's a cop. But he used to just be in those fucking wars. He was a wrestler, but used to just choose to stand and strike. I was going to say Matt Beach, and it's not Matt Beach. I cannot remember his name. But I believe he ended up getting messed up in the head, and now he's a cop. fuck, I wish I could remember his name, but he had like war after war after war after war after war. Dana White's praising him. Yeah, do the fucking shit. I never let that guy go. I don't care if he's on 3 losses in a row. That's the kind of fights I want. But look what ended up happening to the guy. And then after that, the guy's still getting 50% of his shit. You're giving him 50% and then giving him a winning bonus. And think that's okay. He's still missing the other 50%. So I can give you everything I have, my heart, my soul, my body, my mind, literally, and get 50% of the money for it. Mm-hmm. How is that fair? How is that fair? How is that right? Everything. This little guy is trying to kill to go out. He's crazy. Get out of here. You know, it's not right. You know, fucking, that's like telling Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, hey, come put in this work. You're world champion, you're world class. Put in this work. If you win, we'll give you the other half of your money. Nah, man. Give them with the. Here's the thing, the UFC. What did they say? They're paying. It's under. I believe it's under 15% of the total revenue of the UFC that they show is paid to the fighters. I think it's 11% of everything they make is paid to the fighters. You're already fucking them over. So the least you could do is give them all their money. Basically, you're saying, we're not giving you shit, and if you lose this fight, we're going to give you 50% of this piece of shit we're giving you anyways. That's what it is. If you look at it in an economic sense, that's what it is. You're giving the athletes 11% of your income.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is maybe a topic for an entirely another podcast, and we should do this sometime, but sometimes I get people asking me about fighting, about whether or not they should do it. And if it's any kind of a question at all, the answer is no. If it's not something that you would do for free, don't do it at all. Because this is some bullshit. Like, straight up, fucking, you will lose money before you make money, and then when you make money, you ain't gonna make too fucking much, and you are gonna pay for it one way or the other. You know what I mean? This ain't nothing
Usually
nice.
when you make money, you just replacing the money you lost.
You know, after you're paying all your medical shit and all the time you're spending in your camps, and there's all the expenses associated with all that, and then paying your coaches and everything else, fucking forget about it, you know what I mean? And then there's this idea, which is understandable, that because you're out there being an athlete that you're healthy, this shit is not healthy. You are destroying your body constantly, you know what I mean? Like, you go and, like, if a regular person was to see what a 15-pound weight cut was really like, I mean,
Dude, look at Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt just had that interview talking about they ain't getting paid shit. This was a world champion. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He styled on Dominic Cruz, and who does that? Who outmoves Dominic Cruz? You know what I mean? He broke out some hip-hop 70s dances on him. And this kid's talking about he paid like a down payment on a house, and he was out of money. Mm-hmm. He couldn't even buy the whole house.
And that's really pretty much case in point, you know? Not to spoil a later podcast, but my answer is essentially this. Fucking, if money is part of your concern, do something else, man. Do something else. Because the money is just a shit show, and that's at the top level. You are probably not going to get to be the champion, you know what I mean? Try as hard as you want, that's a lifetime goal. Not too many people do it, and then those who do, half the time don't even make shit from it.
Dude, and it's so hard to get anywhere to even make a little bit of money. Like, you have to be from the right team, or know the right person, or be a ex-guy of a big show. Even if you look at some of these guys like ACB, or like Fight Nights Global or Brave, everybody's saying like, hey, we want people, come in, come fuck with us, come do this and that. But they're taking fighters from their region, which is smart, you need the local guys. Then they're taking ex-UFC guys, or guys from gyms of known UFC guys. Where does that leave all the people from all the other gyms that aren't big gyms or that haven't been in the show? So even if you want to get somewhere to try to make a little bit of money, because you can be smart, if you get in up there making like 5 figures and stuff and make money a different way by you know, a lot of people don't, but you could use that money and invest it in something to make money. But you know, like you saying, it ain't gonna come from fighting. But even to make those 5 figures and stuff from these kind of shows, it's almost impossible to get there. It's like fighting, like you said, you have to do it if you love it, because they make it an almost dead end road. It's just,
well, you know
what it is.
And really, the smart thing is get in there, do what you do, and get the fuck out. Like a guy like Brendan Shaw did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People got a lot of mean shit to say about the dude, but he's smart enough. He's going out and he's doing other shit with the fame he got from there. And
why go back to fighting? Why go back? It doesn't make any sense. I don't think he's the best fucking thing out there, but he got, you know, knowing Joe Rogan and knowing the right person, and he used it and monetized it. Get the fuck out of there. He, like he said, he's making 10, 15, 20, 30 more times than he was
He was
MMA.
bold enough to try some other shit. You gotta respect that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He made something of it, you know?
I see these guys telling like Tyrone Woodley, like, go do the movies, you don't care about fighting. You know what I mean? Like, that's the dumbest fucking, here's the thing, the fighters, they say stuff trying to put down other guys and they sound like a dumb fighter, like a lot of people think fighters are anyways. Well, how you gonna put a guy down for doing analyst work and movies and say, oh, that means he does not care about fighting? No, it doesn't. It just means he's fucking smart. You know what I mean? It just means he's smart, and you're showing that you're dumb because you're only focused on fighting and not looking beyond that. He can work on things beyond that and still be focused on fighting. You know what I mean? He's just realistic that it's going to end one day. You know, people have tried to say that to Cormier and all this stuff, like just like when he did that spot with Brock Lesnar. And they're like, oh, that WWE should get that out of here and stuff. And Cormier was like, keep being broke then.
You know what, dude?
You know, and it's
like, I can't hear all that shit. Because the problem is people want to act like you can do the fighter thing, the like stereotypical right way where you're doing this and this. This is not a real fucking sport. Let's be real about this. We got more in common with pro wrestling than we do with a legitimate sport. That's a fact.
Here's the thing. These people that's dogging Cormier for doing that spot are the same people trying to copy McGregor. Hypocrisy.
It's some bullshit, man.
Who
is making the real money? Is it the best fighters? How much is Demetrius Johnson making compared to Conor McGregor, who's been beat fucking by Nate Diaz in one weight and then hasn't fought at 145 in 75 years?
Been beat by Nate twice.
Yeah.
Been beat by Nate. Everybody knows it. They weren't going to let it happen. You remember when that fight was happening? I said it. I was like, if they ain't going to let him fucking lose to that guy twice. There was no way. He could have had his head tore off and been standing there headless, waiting for a decision, and he would have won.
See, you see the end of that fight, he was down on the ground getting whooped on, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, he had his moments in there, but get the fuck out of here with all that, you know?
I feel like watching that fight again.
It was a good fight. Conor did some cool shit in there. He got his licks in, you know what I mean? But
yeah, let's watch that after this. But we'll save this for another podcast. We had to ramble on, y'all. If you guys are learning, you're learning. If you're not, you're ignorant. You know what I mean? So, John Modesti, Ross Pearson. I don't have too much to say about that. It's just Ross. He hasn't changed. He hasn't evolved. Like, you know, I always look at people in the lightweight division, being a lightweight myself, you know, like, oh, what would I do if I fought them? And I remember way back when he was like the shit, I made a strategy in my mind of how I would fight him. And it's years later and it ain't changed. And actually, I've gotten better, so I'm like, oh, that strategy would just work that much better now. You can't ever be that dude. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at him, he didn't move his head off the line. He still doesn't move his head off the line. He leads with the left hook then. He still leads with the left hook now. He barely throw a goddamn jab then. He don't throw a jab now. And he don't step forward when he punched then. He don't step forward now. You know what I mean? So all you always have to do with that guy is fight him and put your arms all the way at length and you'll pick him apart. And in order to close the distance, he's going to leap in with the left hook. If anybody had any good boxing, all they got to do is have the right hand up with a hook back on return, or the right hand up with the right hand ready to fire, or fire the right hand as he's jumping in, because both of his feet are off the ground. And then the other thing is, with his head always on the center line, you can always do anything straight up. Just like we were talking about with Glover Texiera, and it's like, I like Ross Pearson, but it's like, man, I don't know what it is with these guys. Like, you know what I mean? Come holler at me, I'll train you right, homie. You know, like we talk about, you gotta have these honest coaches. You know, I'm wondering, I want to see what you think. Is it that the coaches aren't honest, or is it a combination of some aren't honest and some are utilizing 100% of what they're capable of, and the coach themselves aren't even capable of fixing it? You know what I mean?
You know what, man? I think that there could be a couple things going on, and without being involved in that camp, it's just hard to know. But what I'm seeing here is guys that are not only not changing, but they're stagnating. Because this is the worst I've seen either of those fighters look in recent history. And by in recent history, I mean in like the past 5 years or more, you know? The thing is some of it could be aging, right? Because they look slower and stiffer out there to me. Both of them, super stiff, super slow out there. And I say this as a stiff, slow dude. Don't think I'm just shitting on these guys. I'm stiff and slow as fuck, you know? But they just look so tight out there, and the central range looks so off. And Bas Pearson has looked like a fairly quick dude sometimes, you know? He's always been stiff.
Yeah, he's always looked stiff to me.
But sometimes he was stiff and quick, which seems like it doesn't go together, but sometimes he was. You know, it's like, I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but they just did not look sharp. They look like they both stagnated a lot.
Modesi is like this. I give some leeway because he was always at TriStar, and he just changed camps. So you take some time to acclimate. All right for him, but Ross Pearson is like.
See, here's the other thing, man.
You better be up. You got that fire hydrant head. You know.
Yep. Well, I mean,
you got a head like Super Mario, them things that just smash you.
Yeah, the
blocks. Yeah, the block.
Fucking No, it could be just aging. That could be part of it, right? That's something that will eventually be a factor for everybody. Is that now? I don't know.
Older than him, though.
Well, yeah, but fucking, you know.
I am chalk black, don't cry.
Yeah, he's European. Man.
Yeah,
that,
true.
I mean, I think that automatically makes you a blue belt in alcoholism, so fucking...
when you 20, you 40.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
no, I think another factor could be like, alright, there's aging. That could be a thing. I don't know, but I think a lot of guys, when they've been fighting for too long, don't really improve anymore. They get to a point where they quit being a student of the game. I can't say whether or not that's the case for him, but he hasn't looked different or displayed anything new in a long time. You know what I mean? There's just some guys that get one approach to the game, and then they work on the tools to a certain point, and then they sharpen those tools or they don't, but they don't add anything new.
You know what? It's funny, you know.
It's like we were talking about with Teixeira last time. He just needs to add some more tools because he's not dynamic
You know what
enough.
it reminds me of? That like quote that talks about like how a man doesn't die until he loses his childhood, you know, like his inner child. You and I, you know, everybody that see you fight would know you fucking would just stand there, get your ass whooped, take somebody down, and then fucking sub them, and like look at you now. And it took a long time, and then it finally clicked. And like when you fought Glenn Sparv and all these guys, now you tagging guys up too. You're doing Muay Thai and all that to get more comfortable with striking. I feel like that open-mindedness, like a kid, that curiosity, I feel like if you ever lose that, that's when you stagnate. You know, like me, I'm a striker. I love striking. I will never love grappling more than striking. But all the time I talk to you about like, man, I wish I would have wrestled, man. Man, if we got money, let's go to Russia and Dagestan. And you're like, dude, we'd die in Dagestan. I don't care. We can wrestle there. And it's just that like, kid, and I hate to fucking say it because everybody's fucking says it and bullshits, but like that martial artist mentality, you know, like that, like you want to learn, you want to do, you want to learn, you like you're really curious and interested in other arts. And that's one thing about me. I've been fighting on the streets and everything since I was young, but I've always liked martial arts. So I like watching all this shit. To this day, I wish I could fucking go like this and it make the sounds like, you know, it's just, I love it. So I'm always open and curious. you know, and you're that way too. And I wonder if that's a big part of it. They just lose the curiosity,
You know what?
and openness. And you remember when Joe Rogan said like how everybody, and I like it because you remember when everybody was like, oh, karate's useless, this is this, and Joe Rogan was like, every single martial art on this earth has something you can use in a real fight. You just have to find what it is. And I feel like that kind of open-mindedness is where a person won't stagnate.
Mm-hmm.
The people being like, this is useless, so let me just stick with this. It's this. I feel that the result are those things.
See, you know what? The thing about it is this, man. A lot of it just comes down to, I don't think you even necessarily have to be having a sort of childlike curiosity. There's another path to it. And that's just throwing yourself into deep water and sinking or swimming, right? And that's what I did with Muay Thai and kickboxing. You know what I mean? I put myself in a position where taking a guy down and submitting him was not an option. There's no way it could happen. In my very first fight, I knocked somebody out. I didn't have any choice. You know what I mean? So, don't get me wrong, I was curious. I do love Muay Thai. This is something I want to pursue, and I did have that curiosity, but also at the same time, I had a fight schedule. I didn't have a choice, you know what I mean? I had to do Muay Thai shit, because that was the only thing I could do in a Muay Thai fight, you know? And I did body lock the guy almost right away, like a fucking wrestler does, but whatever, you know, you can cheat once. You can do any takedown once. But yeah, dude, just, the thing is if you keep on going down those same paths over and over again, if you keep on doing the same training camp over and over again, you might get better at that training camp up to a certain point, but then at some point you just start coasting, right? You cannot afford to coast when you're fighting at a high level, you know what I mean? You have to be making progress in some way. It's like, even if you just go and switch it up and do some shit when you don't have a fight coming up, like chasing a little bit of judo, you know? We both trained with judo guys. A lot of people will say that judo is just a worse wrestling, right? But we both know nobody has a grip like a judo guy, you know? You start doing some no-gi with the judo guy and he grabs your wrist and starts going for an armbar, fucking he will hurt your wrist. He grabs your wrist so goddamn hard. You know what I mean?
You made me think of something, and I don't want to pat myself in the back, but I got to. But you know, I feel like, you know how me and you, when we always get excited over new training partners, and I'm always like, oh man, there's a lot of training partners, people to work with. But then I'm also always taking it a step further to the B, and I'm like, oh, they got whatever they're good at, maybe they could show us some stuff. I feel like a lot of these guys keep it at the A. You know how they be like, oh, I'm going to this camp because there's a lot of people to spar and bodies to work with. That's great. Don't get me wrong. That's good. But I feel like that's all it is. Like, you have these different guys to grapple with. So you test your grappling with them. You have these different guys to box or kickbox. So you test your boxing, kickboxing. But their minds aren't further evolved. I want all that too. You do need that. But I'm always curious, after we spar or roll, if you're from a sambo background, show me some shit. You from a judo background, show me some shit. You from a kickboxing background, you're in Holland, show me some shit. I always like that. Because when you're sparring these people or rolling with them, all it is a test of what you have versus what they have. That's not the full learning or the full utilization of the partner. And I never hear these guys talk about doing that. It's always just talking about having these bodies to roll with or spar with. Where's the passing of the knowledge? That's like residual knowledge. Because if you get caught with a leg lock from some sambo guy you roll with all the time, you're going to keep getting caught in it, or you're going to adapt and start learning ways out. But it's not sitting there and being like, hey, show me that shit after class. And you know, me and you have been to a lot of great gyms in the world. I've personally probably seen like, I can probably say about 3 people do that. And that would be Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz, and Jake Shields. I've seen them sit down and really ask people, especially Nick and Nate, like people don't get these guys, they be like, they're stupid and stuff. These guys, when they come to fighting, they're geniuses. It's like that story I always tell you when I sparred Nick and I was using myriad and I got the better of him. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get you next time. And then next time he got me. And all the stuff didn't even work the next time. And he just said how he just went home thinking about that shit and watching stuff. It's like that open-mindedness, it does wonders, man, for not stagnating.
You know what, Nick? You just gotta be interested and love it enough to really think about stuff.
Love enough to hate it.
That's a different matter. But enough that you think about it, you try to solve these problems, and then you actually do stuff scientifically, right? Like you have theories, you test them out, you try different shit. Like me and you train with a lot of Russians. We don't speak Russian, even a little bit. We can say das vidanya, you know what I mean? That's about it. See you later, motherfucker. But we can go ahead and take some of the shit that we learned from guys, and we can reverse engineer it enough to figure out some of the leg locks they're doing and this kind of stuff, right? And then the thing is like, for me, that's the one that is the least appreciated with the most value that people don't seem to realize. And we trained with Val Ignatov, so we know.
Shout outs, Val Ignatov.
We know that there's guys out there who fucking you've never heard of that can just completely destroy you with some shit that you've never seen. And the thing is, if you've never seen it before, even if you're great, you can have a problem on your hands.
Dude,
to
jump in on you, Gaston.
Mm-hmm.
Gaston.
Yeah.
Everybody's on, speaking of guys you never heard of, everybody's on Gaston now.
Mm-hmm.
We were training with Gaston when nobody heard of him.
Oh shit, he was like...
And you know, and this is Gaston Bolognese from CSA, shout out CSA, trained by Kieran Fitzgibbons, you know, great striking coach. And this kid Gaston, what was he, like 4? He was so young at the time. And you know, this guy was doing up Frank Yeager, doing up Rick Story, and this kid's like 135, all this stuff, like top strikers in the world and everything. And I say, you know, I've been saying it forever, the best out there, they haven't even been seen yet. You know, look at Tyson Off. I was watching him, nobody knew who he was. Now nobody want to fight him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was watching Khabib, nobody knew who he was. Nobody want to fight him. You know, you got Mamet Khalidov out there that we both been wanting the UFC. He ain't never been in there. It's so many dudes out there, you know, but it's funny, like you say, is how that is. It just reminded, Gaston just popped in my head because you just talked about him earlier today.
You know what, the funny thing about it is, nobody knows this, but he has the best natural double leg I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, he never did. I forgot about that. He did.
I mean, I saw him hit it against good wrestlers over and over. I've never seen him shoot that double leg and not get it. You know, I'm sure it happens, but his success rate on that shit is something that you can see from a very high level wrestler.
Man, amazing kid for sure. Let's see what's next. Shout out Gaston. He probably like 13 now, you know, something like that.
He a grown ass man now. I see him, he got a goatee and shit.
I know, looking all pretty and shit. You got Islam Makhachev, Cajun Johnson. Man, Cajun, if you gonna hand fake out Dana White, you can't lose. You can't fake out the balls and then lose. And then like in the first round. But Makhachev, you know, out there, AK, me and James are both AK originals before all this shit. You know, DC, I was there before you, homie. You better give me some love, homie. And all this, and he's over there with Javier Mendez and everything like that. Shout out to Javier Mendez, good dude, you know. And he's looking better. But you remember, he didn't have no too good striking at first too. Now he got some footwork. You know what I mean? He starts Gleason Tibau with a left hand, even though Gleason was like 52 years old in that fight. And Cajun is just like, once he caught up to him,
I mean, all he did was run.
Yeah.
He got taken down, and then
it was over.
Well, the thing is it was like one of those sequences that remind me of like the old Gracie Jiu-Jitsu days when it was just like they had a formula. You know what I mean? It's like you would always see the same general shit: takedown, mount, ground and pound, and then the guy would turn their back and get rear naked choked, or they would get like this, and then they would get armbarred. Not that he outright did some shit like this, just Cajun is literate in his grappling, he can get by, but it was just perfect. Once he was on the ground, it like was so polished it almost looked like a demo or something.
That was weird.
I gotta give him credit, I thought it was a really great performance once he finally got a hold of him.
Yeah, I don't know what up with Cajun on that track meet shit. You know, Reebok gotta give him some running. Hakeem, I don't even know how to say his last name, DeWudo and Austin Arnett. You know, Hakeem got beat, let me see who he got beat by, because I like that guy. who beat him too. Danny Henry. Danny Henry choked the shit. I like Danny Henry because he go hard in the paint when he choked him with like that unstoppable guillotine. And Hakeem was like, "Oh, you guys judged me off that fight. Watch the next one." And I just was bored in that fight. You want to talk about joining me and Alex Morono or not really? I don't have too much to say.
You know what, my only thing is this. I don't know what happened with Jordan Man in this fight specifically, but I've always thought of him as being a really good striker. Unorthodox, kind of weird, comes from a karate background, but my big moment with him was when he beat Evangelista Santos with the elbows. He just looked fantastic.
He was elbowing everybody for a while.
You know what? And like, the thing is his hands have never been like the most impressive thing, but he got some power in this one. He was just throwing big, loopy, ugly punches, and he kept on getting takedowns. And I mean, yeah, he's working grappling, and that's okay, but he just did not look anywhere near his best incarnation to me. It's like when you look at that fight back in Strikeforce, like how many years ago? Probably 5 or more, probably more than 5.
Yeah.
He looked significantly better to me back then. You know, it's just, I don't know what made his striking look so much worse in this case. But he needs to get back to whatever it was before or figure out something new, because he just did not look good to me.
I don't know, and that's your cousin too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what's going on there, really. I don't know.
He's not my cousin. They just say he looks similar.
Y'all both got them lips. Alexander, the great Hernandez, and Olivier Aubin Mercier. You know, Alexander starts, what's his name? Just slipped my mind. From King's MMA, Beneil Dariush. And everybody talked about him being the next great thing. Everybody jump on fucking anybody that does anything. Beneil ain't always even had the best chin. So you got this big athletic kid with some power and speed. Let's not act like that was an impossibility. Then he fights Olivier, and it was just like, I wasn't impressed with nobody in that fight, to be quite honest. The one thing that I guess I was impressed in the sense that Olivier is usually the guy putting people against the cage, bullying them down, and he couldn't do it to this kid. The kid usually was bullying him to the cage. But Olivier, I was more like curious about the mistakes Olivier was making, more so than what the kid was doing. Because when Olivier was getting advantageous positions, it was like the belt color on his jiu-jitsu was fading away or something like that. Like, he was just making these mistakes where the kid was getting out from pure athleticism. And not even like super explode. It was just strange to me. It was like Olivier could not believe somebody was stronger than him and never got any real rhythm going. Like he got gum on his shoes or something. It was so weird. It was such a weird fight to me.
Yeah, you know, and it's one of the funny things that you discover in MMA. It's that a lot of bad jiu-jitsu works good once it ends up being a fight. You know what I mean? And that's something important for jiu-jitsu practitioners to keep in mind if they're doing it for self-defense. Because, I mean, shit, you're in there with a wild animal, shit can turn kind of funny. You know what I mean?
Quote Hodger, how he said 90% of the shit he learned don't even work in MMA.
Sure, you know what, and like there's a lot of layers to that, because you ain't fighting with a bunch of clothes on, you know, so that's going to change the dynamics of things, and yeah, there's just so many reasons why that would be the case, and we can't cover all that right now, but yeah, shit, crazy works, you know what I mean, athletic works, that'll stop a lot of shit, just as you're trying to deal with strikes.
So is it true that you can't stop crazy? You know, like Joe Schilling and Kevin Ross says it's true.
Now, I mean, one thing I'll say is, nobody likes crazy. You don't want to be on the other side of crazy. Maybe you can stop it, but you would rather you had something else on the other side.
I wonder if you stop crazy, does it really not stop because then it just passes on to you?
Crazy never really stops. It just gets passed on. There's always crazy.
Like getting there with balling and shit. You get touched with it and it's in you. Can't Stop Crazy. What happened to that?
I don't know. It might still be around.
It was everywhere. Now I don't know. We gotta ask somebody.
Yeah. I don't know if all of those guys are still competing anymore.
Joe Schilling, shout out to Joe, you know, the homie. I know he just talked about how kickboxing was not paying him shit, which is crazy to hear. And he's the first guy to beat Marcus Simon, you know, beat Artem Levin when Artem Levin was like the dude twice. And one of the times, I believe, by knockout. And it's like, how he not getting paid? So, and he's talking about he's just going to do MMA now, I guess.
Shit, you know what? And that'll just show you how bad shit is, because you're talking about a guy that...
One of the best American kickboxers ever.
Yeah, well, you're talking about a guy who goes out there and puts on a great show every time, does everything that everybody says a fighter is supposed to do, and then he's got empty pockets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a guy who's getting hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's taking some shots that'll stick with him for the next decade or more.
Especially in MMA. And that's another, that goes to show you how MMA is different. Joe Schilling was known for taking them shots by the best in the world in kickboxing. Then in MMA, man, he ain't taking no shots. And some could argue, well, he took too many shots in kickboxing, and that probably is some of it, but 4 ounce and 10 ounce. It makes a difference.
Huge difference.
It makes a difference. And the openings in MMA shit be hitting you, you don't even see. It's crazy. What do we have here next? Johanna Jędrzejczyk and Tecia Trill. Man, I was sad Tecia lost, man. Johanna, why can't she accept that she lost? Like to Rose 2 times. I don't even want to talk about this fight. I want to talk about that. Why can she not accept that she lost and saying she the queen of the straw weights? You gotta have a crown, or in this case, a belt. You can't to be the queen. Just accept it. Like Tecia, you know, to get more serious on this fight, I don't know why she kept engaging in the grappling.
See, and the commentators were talking about it, like, oh, this is not to her advantage because she's not a wrestler. And I was like, well, listen, she's the one scoring all the effective strikes, and she comes from a Muay Thai background. And it's not like she doesn't know how to deal with a clinch, or she's going to immediately get tired because she's in a clinch. You know, they acted like that was going to be the situation, and I feel like they just didn't understand exactly how that was going to play out.
I feel like Tecia was so focused on the wrestling, she forgot she can strike as well. She's from a striking background. And you see when she actually let her hands go, she had Johanna rocked. Johanna, at no point in that fight ever had her rocked. She should have mixed it up better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She should have mixed it up better. It's like Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva is a good example. And you and I used to talk about it like, if somebody fought Anderson like they don't give a fuck, they would do better. But when you're fighting a guy and you're like, he's good at striking, there's nothing I can do. I have to get him down. Already, you're already put yourself behind. Chris Weidman was like, man, whatever, you know, I don't care, I'm fighting his ass. Chael Sonnen was like that too, you know, and you do better. Tecia would have been more like that, believed in she, you know, do her normal things, speed, the unorthodox kicks, high volume combinations. She would have done a lot better, I thought.
Well, you know what, really, this is something that John Wood over at Syndicate MMA teaches his guys really
Shout out Wood.
Is changing levels, you know what I mean? The thing is even if you're striking with a guy, if you change your levels and make it look like you're going for a takedown and you come up with an uppercut, you got a better chance of landing that, especially if you've already shot one takedown before, because now they're on the lookout for it, you know? Or if you throw one leg kick, you can start feigning leg kicks now.
Yeah.
You look at guys like Demetrius Johnson is the best example. He has all the tools. He uses all the tools. People are scared of all the tools. That makes everything more effective because they know that everything is there. You know what I mean? If you just know they're going to rush at you and grab onto you over and over and over again, you know what I mean? If she would have just broke off, throw a couple punches, and then go right back in, she would have had a better shot at that takedown, and she would have had more success with her strikes.
Yeah, and the thing is, she needed to change shit up. I remember she kept going for the double leg and just getting kneed. But you could clearly tell the strength, maybe not even the strength, the leverage was playing more to Johanna's advantage. Because Tecia was taking all the damage. It wasn't major damage, but if there was damage to be done in that clinch, she was taking it. You got to change to single. You got a break off attack and restrike. And one of the best people that used to do that back in the days, shout out to the other homie, was Gil Melendez. How he used to attack, shoot in. If he couldn't get it, come back up, attack, and reshoot. And it's like, you don't see that often in MMA anymore. And she needed to do something. You and I talk about it all the time. When something is not working for 10, 15, 20 seconds, it's not going to work. And it was a shame to see that. I wanted to see more of a fight out of that, but it played out how it did. And Johanna didn't look the best neither. So, she needed to get her shit together while she thinking she ain't been beat. And Jose, I'm not saying Jose ever on this podcast, so I'm letting everybody know. It was Jose forever. Then one day it became Jose. I ain't doing it. Versus Low Heathen, Jeremy Stevens. So that fight was crazy.
It was.
It was like a fight.
Wars.
It was like both people. One thing about Jose Aldo that I like, and it might not always be to his advantage, when he started getting tagged up, he got mad and just started swinging back. He didn't try to hold on or nothing. He just said, hey, fuck you think you hit him. He did it with Max Holloway too. That guy got hurt. I love it. I fucking love it.
You don't lay down and die because he got shook up, and it's not like he didn't get touched again after he got shook up. He recovered.
And he did here's the thing. He was better tactically using his speed and range instead of fist fighting Jeremy Stevens. And what people aren't understanding is he out fist fought the fist fight guy. He out brawled the brawler. And that body shot, god damn.
I like how he hit him with the right one before he hit the left.
Yeah, he slipped over to the right, boom, to the left, boom. Jeremy Stevens like, oh! Yeah, that fight. And then he did with, I guess it's a Brazilian custom and cried for 15 minutes. But, I understand. He just lost to Max Holloway. Speaking of which, I hope that guy gets better, whatever is going on with him. Blessings to Bless, because I want to see him back in action. And but I understand all that pent up frustration, especially when everybody thinking he was done over, since everybody want to tell somebody else when they're done. I was happy to see him get that dub.
Well, it's been a weird thing with Jose because he's just had such an odd career path. Where in the WEC, I remember hearing a lot of people say, "Man, this is my favorite fighter ever." He was hitting that double knee against Cub Swanson and just going out and murdering people with leg kicks and being a super dynamic, super dangerous fighter who was takedown proof. And, for whatever reason, once he started winning decisions as the champion of the UFC, nobody gave a shit about him. He had a good fighter too, but once he got to be just a little bit on the safe side, a little bit on the boring side, his stock went way down.
It's weird because I never found any of his fights boring, but it was like people held him to this high expectation, so they just made it boring. But I understand him being like, I ain't gonna risk losing this belt because I ain't making enough fucking money, and the only little bit of money I'm making is because I got this belt. Think about, like we were saying earlier, if you paying him all of his money and shit like that, would he feel that way? You remember Quinny used to always say, people fought their asses off in pride because they know win or lose, as long as they fight, they had a job. They know they always got paid their full salary. They know they have respect. So I kind of understand this mentality. If the little bit of money you getting is linked to that belt, why risk losing it?
Well, you know what, in case in point, if he would have fought that more conservative sort of way against Conor, maybe he'd still be the champ now. He'd certainly have had a better shot than if he came in pissed and tried to fight that man.
Yeah.
Because that got him slept.
Look at DJ. DJ asked for like $1 million to fight TJ, and he couldn't even get it. How? That is, let me be clear from the Greg Blackson perspective, that is the best MMA fighter of all time, and I watch everything. You guys got on the BJ Penn, GSP, Quentin Jackson, Fedor, this guy, that guy. I was watching all these guys before they was in any big show. You remember like TKO, UCC, all this, man, all that M1. I was watching all the guys big now before they were even big. I know what's up. And that's the best fighter, pound for pound, ever to me. The guy is an MMA guy. Like other guys, you'd be like, oh, it's a wrestler that could do this, it's a jiu-jitsu guy that could do this, or it's a boxer that could do this, a kickboxer that could do this, and then you see holes here and that. That guy is just an MMA guy. I can't even put him in the classification. That's the best MMA fighter ever, and you can't even give him a cool 7 figures, say, here you go, fly off with that cheese, give the mouse a little bit of cheese. They can't even do it.
And if he's not going to get it for that, what's he going to get it for? He has to go outside of his weight division to fight a guy who's bigger than him. And he's not even going to get it for that?
Yeah.
Never mind, we're just getting paid for everything else.
And then I'm tired of fighters with that dumbass shit. Like, TJ, oh, he's scared to fight me. Guys, fucking stop. Just fucking stop. Everybody. He ain't scared to fight you. A motherfucker trying to get money that he's earned and for his family and not doing it for any less doesn't mean he's scared. Just like when Jeremy Stevens just tried to say Brian Ortega was scared to not fight him when he was supposed to fight Max Holloway. Why fight you? He was about to fight for a belt. Why fight you for nothing and take the risk when he's earned his title shot? That don't mean he's scared. The guys is like, they like the worker bees. They just drones. And if you know anything about bees, the worker bees, they just work, do their thing, and die. They got short lifespans. You gotta have a business mind in this shit. Because in the end, they don't care about you. So why you acting like, who was it we were talking about from our personal life? I can't remember, but you were just fucking mad about it and vehemently spewing like, why are you sitting here taking up for this show that doesn't care about you? I remember what it is, but I ain't gonna speak the name right now. But you know, we had that personal experience where somebody, you know, was speaking about ONE FC and sticking up for it like the promotion really cares about them or anybody else. And it's like the promotion, any promotion cares about the promotion. You're just an employee of that. If you don't look out for you, who's gonna look out for you? You can't not look out for you and then in the name of a company that in the end doesn't care about you. And these guys are acting like that. It's such a follower mentality.
See, you know what, and I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you look at all the guys that are making the most money, that are doing the best shit, that are actually making something out of MMA, it ain't the good boys. It ain't the ones that are doing what they're supposed to do. Nate Diaz, the way that they were treating him, you remember when they're saying, you don't move the needle, when Dana was saying. And then he went and decided to fucking stick to his guns till finally they gave him a late notice fight that he was supposed to get smoked in against Conor, and now he's got some money in his pocket. He's finally got some success because he did his own shit his own way.
Long overdue success.
See, and then same thing. Conor McGregor didn't do what he was supposed to do. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, he's been a guy that's broken a lot of the rules and done a lot of the shit that he wasn't supposed to do. He isn't like a marketing masterpiece, but at the same time, he is. Because he's not what everybody told him what he's supposed to be. You can't go and pander to people, you know, and try and be this sort of, oh, I'll fight anybody at any time. I'm whoever Dana White puts in front of me, that's what I want to do because I'm a good worker, you know.
How many people has he betrayed?
I'm not even
you remember the whole not move the needle thing was just because Nate didn't let himself get fucked over.
Right, he was supposed to fight Khabib. That's what the fight was, right? Yeah. He was willing to do it, but then, I mean, they didn't make it the right amount of money.
Dude, he was originally offered that E40 scratch.
Sure.
Which
you know what? And then here's another one. Floyd Mayweather. I mean, the thing is the guy's a master of the game, but the last time he had an exciting fight, I mean, I couldn't tell you when. You know what I mean? He isn't a super exciting dude. He doesn't not leave it in the hands of the judges. He leaves it in the hands of the judges pretty much every single time he comes out, and he's making more money than anybody, you know what I mean? He isn't taking that orthodox path, and he's coming out of it successful, you know what I mean? Everybody wants to tell you what you're supposed to do, but for whatever reason, that formula never seems to work for anybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even someone like Randy Couture, who was mostly that way, you know?
They fucked him over.
Yeah, exactly.
How you gonna fuck over somebody named Captain America the hero that represents this goddamn country. If you can fuck over Captain America, you can fuck over anybody.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, man. Let's see what we got next while we doing fights and politics and everything. All this shit nobody want to talk about. No, Joe Rogan talk about this shit and that real shit too. We got Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, Mark fucking Henry. Okay, Mark Henry told him to throw that elbow. You know that, right?
Yeah, he did. I heard him. I heard him say it a couple of times.
And he was going like this. Mark Henry, why? You know, at least I'm seeing all these interviews where he's like, it's my fault. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Mark Henry, you are 50% correct. Because Eddie Alvarez got 213 goddamn fights. He knows he can't do that. He knows he can't do that. And it's like, people were saying it cost Eddie Alvarez the fight. That's not true. Unless if you're like Professor Charles Xavier or that other mutant simply named X-Man and you can see the future. He could have still ended up losing that fight. But he wouldn't have lost when he did, you know, like it cost him that. And it's like, I don't know what it is versus Poirier, but Eddie Alvarez always wants to do something controversial versus that guy in particular. It's funny, but what did you think of the fight up to that point?
It was a good competitive fight. You know, I liked a lot of the things that were going on in the fight. Dustin Poirier is looking better and better every time I see him. You know, he impresses me. He's a great fighter. You know, I can't take that away from him. He ain't my favorite fighter. I don't care for him. I don't root for him ever. You know, and I've liked Eddie Alvarez for a long time. You know, even since he was fighting at 170.
Yeah,
even though he's like 2 feet tall.
Way
You know,
back.
yeah.
You know what, Eddie Alvarez, I felt was dominating that fight up to that point.
He was.
You know?
He was. You know what?
Did you see he gave him a
It
red
was
willy when he was on the
It was
ground?
competitive. What's that?
He gave him a red willy when he was on the ground
Didn't catch
right
that.
before that.
I
Yeah.
catch that. The shittiest thing about the whole deal for me is like, it was such a minuscule effect. You know what I mean? It's not like fucking he landed some soccer kick or something like that really changed the dynamics of the fight. The whole dynamic of the fight got changed by something that probably didn't leave a bruise, right?
Well, Poirier said that it did nothing to him.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So what do you think for stuff like that? It should have been paused a moment, said, hey, watch out, and continued on. That's how I feel. I feel like if it didn't do any damage, you shouldn't make the person lose their position.
Well, the thing is this, like there isn't a clear precedent for it. I thought the referee handled it about as well as he could, you know what I mean? The thing is, like he said, it's like, this isn't my rule, you know? This is...
Yeah, it was Mark Gunner, right?
Yeah.
I like Mark Gunner.
He's a great referee.
Yeah.
I got nothing but respect for him. I think he made a good decision. I wish it would have played out different. You know what? The thing is, it wasn't bad reffing, it was a bad situation.
Yeah.
That's really all
I
it was.
personally feel like if it doesn't do damage, you pause it, you stop, and then you continue where you are.
Yeah, well,
You know what I mean? I think it's kind of up to the other person. Let's say it didn't, and Poirier's like, oh man, blah, blah, blah. Then I feel you should break it up.
You know what? I feel like it makes, like if you can do that, stand the guys up from that situation, then you definitely should be standing people up every time someone gets taken down or
grabbing the fence?
Yeah.
Because I've seen people grab the fence multiple times and not get points taken. And I've seen people grab the fence multiple times, not get taken down or a point taken, and then end up knocking the guy that otherwise would have had them on the ground.
Right.
You know? Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost equally game distorting. Obviously, we saw the worst case scenario with Eddie Alvarez because, I mean, he just got not even knocked out, just beaten absolutely ruthlessly against the cage, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
he
thank
tried
God,
to fight back.
He did. Thank God the referee stopped it when he did because he was taking a serious ass whooping, you know? It would have been great if he would have landed one of those shots and dropped him the way that he tends to do in some of his fights, but Dustin Poirier fought smart.
Dude, Eddie Alvarez won't die.
No, it's a tough dude.
He will not
But
die.
the weird thing is like, all the fights where he's gotten dropped easily, it's weird to me how he wasn't getting dropped in this one as many shots as he was taking. He just stayed on his feet the entire time, you know?
So, I don't know what's up with I don't know. I still think that Conor McGregor fight, either Conor got more power and accuracy than I think, or that shit was a setup. Because I've never seen Eddie Alvarez go out like that to this day. You know, that was a weird thing.
Yeah, everything was weird about that. I didn't like anything about that, but it was what it was.
Well, we're about to close out, guys, for this second MMA mashup. But I gotta pop up 2 quick questions for you, James.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Henry Cejudo 2. Who you got winning that?
Obviously, DJ.
I got DJ 2. TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt 2. Who you got winning?
Okay, that's not a simple one at all. That's really challenging. Obviously, they're like this, man. They are close. It's really just kind of depends on the adjustment that Cody Garbrandt makes. You know, the thing is shit, I don't know. I would probably give, if I had to make a pick right now, I would actually pick Garbrandt.
I pick Garbrandt because, and my reason for picking him is the first time they fought, he was coming straight off of an injury.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's who I have in that one.
See, you know what? And I hope that he learns from that last fight, because the thing is he went out there and he fought a good first round, and they came into the second one just a little bit too hot, you know. And he showed.
If you, I don't know if you ever heard his corner, but Buckles was like, "Oh, he's still hurt. Just go finish him." Yeah. You know.
Yeah, it was just a shame, and you know what? And I gotta say, Dwayne Ludwig, of course, did a great job in the corner, and he had him make some good adjustments. It was funny because it just doesn't seem like something that you would expect too many people to say with him throwing that hard kick that he knew was going to get blocked, you know?
Yeah.
But once he started switching it up and just kind of taking a little bit more of a Thai approach to it, he was having more success, and eventually that led to the knockout, you know?
I think that a fully in shape Garbrandt is the one we saw fight Dominic Cruz, and that one I think is very, very hard to beat. And he wasn't that one when he fought TJ the first time. You could tell he didn't have that footwork.
Yeah, the funny thing about those two fighters is they're both so fucking good when they're on point. You know, they are both so good.
Both of them.
You know, and Dillashaw has never been a favorite fighter of mine, and neither has Cody Garbrandt. You know, I like them both okay. Don't get me wrong, they're fun to watch and all that. But even with that being the case, they are absolutely on another level when they're at their prime. You know, when they're performing at their best, they are absolute monsters.
And the funny thing is, as much as they hate each other, they're like right here. They're like right there.
And that's the funny thing about it is I make a pick for it, but at the same time I do that with the knowledge that it's just whoever's better that night, you know. And
Cody
then
got
sometimes,
that power edge.
yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He does. But man, that speed is something. You know what I mean? And like we were talking about earlier, just one head kick is all it takes, and they slip in the way they're moving. You know, they just got to be dialed in.
Here's the thing I feel like speed of hands goes to Garbrandt. Speed of motion,
yes.
I feel, and here's the thing, it's different. People would give it to Dillashaw. I always did too, until I saw Cody fight Cruz. And the way he was moving and the speed and the footwork and everything, it was right up there with Dillashaw. Mm-hmm. What I give Dillashaw the advantage is in like his combinations. He puts more punches together and more combinations, the volume, than Cody. And diversity, because
he's a much more dynamic striker.
Like that. So I give him the edge in diversity and combinations. I give their movement speed equal in the hand speed and the power to Cody. And the I don't even know who I give the chin advantage to, you know?
I'm curious if in this fight the wrestling will be more of an item.
You know what? The thing is, Cody's wrestling surprised me when he fought Cruz too. Mm-hmm. His wrestling was on point, you know, and I've seen some video of him wrestling with Dillashaw, and they were like this. It's just funny, those guys are so fucking close, and you know, the overall skills are like pretty equal.
Those guys are all like cats. They always land on their feet. It seems like they're like 95% taken down, and then somehow they end up getting some little post out there and just spring right back up.
You know, my 2 favorite scrambling sessions of any MMA fights to this day, my number 1 was TJ Dillashaw, Dominic Cruz, the scrambles on the ground. I learned so much that helped me with my own scrambles from that, and this is from flat on their back, how they wouldn't accept it and how they turned into scrambles. And then Frank Trigg, Matt Hughes, number 1. That was damn near a wrestling match instead of an MMA match.
Yeah, that was a different one because they were both so powerful. I like Cruz and Faber a lot. And the second fight between them.
Oh yeah, when he hit like 32 knee taps in a row.
Yeah, and they kept on using like the reverse shrimp to get back up. But
that was a good one too.
yeah, they were just, man, just the amount of motion they used. Their cardio was so far off the charts to be able to move with that big, that explosive motions that much, you know? The speed, the timing, everything. It's super impressive.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fights tomorrow. We're going to recap those for you guys too, but we're about to sign out. We got the recap of this UFC tomorrow coming up. And then, you know, they just had that, 25th anniversary UFC, whatever, mashup lineup of guys. We'll go through that with you guys on a separate podcast as well, but we're about to hop off. Follow me on everything at Fallen Angel 510. Follow him on everything at James Chaney MMA. Yada boo boo, we out.